And welcome everyone to this week in Svelte. I'm here, Paolo. Finally back. I had some traveling and stuff, so I was not able to host for some weeks. Luckily, and I mean luckily for you because he did a great job. Unluckily for me because he actually did a super great job, but Gregor actually hosted this past versions of this week in Svelte, and he did a super great job. So it will be very difficult for me to stand to his level, but we will try. We will try. So, welcome everyone, and I'm very happy to be back here. Um, and let's start immediately. As you may have guessed, we will probably start with the changelog, but let's actually showcase our. I don't think I have the agenda anymore. So let's ignore the agenda because the agenda would be actually the usual agenda. So we can start with the changelog, then we have a very small quick fact. And actually, given that we don't have a community showcase, and last time I think Martin did a very good job with some live coding, I think it's very interesting. And so we might play a bit with Svelte 5 because there are some interesting new things happening. So I think it's interesting to explore a bit of Svelte 5. So let's start with the changelog. We have a bunch of things in Svelte 5 because obviously, it's been at least 2 weeks, and so we actually have a bunch of things. So yeah, let's go over it. We have some breaking changes because let's remember, like Svelte 5, it's actually in pre-release, so it's on the next tag, and this means that there will be breaking change all over the place. There is at least one other PR that will break again in Svelte 5, but I mean, if you are using Svelte 5, I'm sorry for you, but at the end of the day, it's part of the fun. Like, I'm using Svelte 5 for a side project of mine, and I don't care. Like, most of these breaking changes are not actually really breaking because, I mean, are technically breaking changes, but if you are not using that feature, it's not a breaking changes. And most of the time, if you can keep up with the releases, it's actually not that bad. Like, you can just usually just change a name or update a way to do something. Like, it's not a huge breaking changes. For example, here, preserve slots inside templates with shadow root mode attribute. Like, it's technically breaking changes, but I don't think anyone is actually using templates and shadow root mode attribute because this is very, very new. I don't know if you know about this, but um, we can actually go and see. But basically, uh, now, like in actual HTML, you can do this. This is the declarative shadow DOM, which is very, very cool, by the way, because this kind of allows you to have out of order streaming with raw HTML. It's a super cool technology, and I really look forward to it. But yeah, I don't think everyone is using this in production. So yeah, probably there are some people that are using this, and I'm very happy because this means that we get to catch these bugs or like these things soon, and Svelte 5 can already be compatible with declarative shadow root, which is very cool. There are some other small things, some fix, some bump specificity, um, eagerly unsubscribe when stories changed and stuff like that. Use getters for derived class state field with memoization. These are small things. Oh, this is another breaking change. This is a more interesting one because props was a generic before, and now it's not anymore. So this is something that you should really know. Before you would have done something like this, like to specify what type your props are. You would do something like $sign props and then pass a generic, and now it's not like this anymore. You can just type your variable. So I don't know if we have, yeah, we don't have one, but if you go to Svelte 5 preview, um, another interesting thing, like you can now use TypeScript inside the preview because Svelte it's actually understanding. So if we go props, you can see that uh, here, if you do const like this equal $props, um, before what you would need to do, for example, if you want a prop that is a string, I don't know, name, you would, to know that name is a string, you would do something like this. Name string, and actually I need to use lang equal TypeScript here. So this was how you would do it before, and now the only thing that you have to do is copy your type here, move it from props to actual being a type. So name is still a string. You can type it however you want. You can obviously type it as a separate interface. If you have type my props equal this, you can say my props here. But yeah, there was this breaking change. There is probably some reason for it. They probably want to lay the um, they probably want to lay the route the street for something in the future. Also, like in the meantime, while we go over the changelog, if you have any question at all about Svelte, about web development in general, feel free to drop it in chat, because there's another stuff that we can do in our time is answering question. I mean, I will try. I don't know if I will be able to, but let's just drop it in chat if you have any question. Let's move. That's what I want to explore a bit in the future. There is this new thing in Svelte, which is Svelte Reactivity. Now, you can import stuff from this Svelte Reactivity, and we will explore a bit how this is working, because um, if you want to have reactivity for complex classes, for example, a set or a map or a date, like this is different from the normal set, like because uh, in the normal set, when you add stuff to it, Svelte will have no way of knowing it. I mean, it could kind of like mock away the thing, but I think they actually made a good choice here, because they are basically exporting a series of reactive states. So if you want to have a set that is actually a reactive set, you can just import set from Svelte Reactivity and have it reactive. And we will explore a bit of this later. Adjust rendering effect order. So we are saying, like Terry is saying, that breaking changes because when using generics, the type form, the generics will not conflict with the default values. What do you exactly mean by this? That's a breaking change, because before you had to put the type into the generic, and now you have to type it. Oh, probably what you are saying is that if you was using a default value on the prop and then type it with the generic differently, TypeScript will not complain. I don't know if that's true, but oh, there is a comment. Is hard to explain. Okay, don't worry, don't worry. We can actually look at it if you want. Let's go. I will do it, because maybe we can learn something. Things can break because you are relying on inference. Yeah, because basically they infer the string. Oh, okay. That's very okay. Now I understand. Yeah, basically what this fixed this problem here, because if you're doing this, TypeScript will smartly say that this inferred is either a string or a number, because yeah, like they are saying that you are returning the type T, but you're also like you are declaring your type in two places. You are declaring here that your type is of type string, but you're also implicitly declaring here that your type is of type number. So by doing this, you actually get an error from TypeScript. This is really good. And thank you, Ter, for pointing out that actually Rich was explaining what was happening. There is also a small question from LTS0703. Not really a question, but only you hosting this week, Paulo. Yes, today it's only me, but obviously, like other member of the Svelte community will, you are free to join too. Like if you want, I will actually drop the StreamYard in link in chat. And if you want to say something, if you want to give your thought, if you want to show your face, or even if you just want to talk and keep your face hidden, you can join, and I will gladly join you on stage. So let's go ahead and go to look. Like, for example, here there is some fix. For example, this is set.has. So there was some problem probably with the newly added set on reactivity, Svelte reactivity. Add reactive map to Svelte reactivity, which is very good. Types for Svelte reactivity, which because everybody's using TypeScript. Let's be honest. Ensure arguments are supported on all reactive date methods. So this is the other thing. Like probably they have also a date class from reactivity, so you can have reactive date. Very cool. A bunch of things here. Support for WebKit directory DOM Boolean attribute. Like for example, I really love, because this, I'm really sure that this is an issue somewhere. Yeah, fixes these. Doesn't treat HTML Boolean attributes equally. Yeah. Like I never heard of this attribute. I'm actually curious. Let's search MDN for this, because I really don't know what this is about. Is a property that reflects the WebKit directory. HTML attribute and indicates that the input element should let the user select directories instead of files. Really interesting. Really interesting. And I guess the WebKit before is because it's only available in WebKit. Let's see if yeah. Oh no, it's actually pretty. Wow, I never actually heard of this. Really interesting. Don't override instance method. Adjust the scope parent for name slot. Improve element class attribute behavior. Yep, small fixes. Okay, that's it for Svelte 5. They are working really hard, guys. They are working really hard, and I'm really hyped about Svelte 5. I'm really hyped about Svelte in general, but Svelte 5, I really can't wait for the release candidate. Let's hope of something like soonish. Let's see if we have some Svelte kit. I don't think we have. Oh, no, actually, I think we have something. Yeah, okay. Because this was more than 1 week ago, but we did not actually have this week in Svelte those weeks. So we first have this revert tsconfig change that includes svelte.config.js. And I actually had this very problem that was fixed by this patch release, because they basically open the tsconfig a bit more, so to include also svelte.config.js. But this means that, for example, there are some types that are not actually typed. So there are some configurations that are not actually typed, and it was creating problems. So this was technically a breaking change. They could release type for it, but regardless, it was technically a breaking change, and so they had to revert it. Exclude service worker from tsconfig again is probably the same thing. Like they were including it here. TS counting include should cover Svelte. So they tried to add it, but then realized that it was a breaking change and reversed it. And now we have this prevent navigation when data SvelteKit preload data fails due to fetch due to network error. I don't know if you know about these things, but basically that those are attributes that you can put on forms or links to tell SvelteKit how to do some stuff. So in this case, you can actually put this on a link, for example, and this means that when you hover on that link, you can actually choose when to preload data, but SvelteKit will start to do a fetch to get the data for that route. And this means that when you click, it's probably already there and you can just navigate without having to wait for the load function. It's a very cool feature. And this basically relies on the fact that the user is never very quick to click. Like, it's just okay, is this the one that I want to open? And while the user is thinking, SvelteKit in the background is downloading the data. Very interesting. I think there's also some other release. For example, we have an update for create svelte, which is the thing that gets run when you do pm create svelte. There's some updates to adapter vercel. I think very obviously like support for TypeScript 5.4 that added new stuff, so they have to add the same stuff to the language tools. And obviously the extension. They also added, like, this is a very they are working very hard on adapters too. um, there's these, which is a huge game changer. Like, if you are using Cloudflare to deploy your SvelteKit application, basically they created like they added the ability to have this event.platform so that you can use an emulator of the Cloudflare runtime to actually test your application as if it was inside Cloudflare, because like on Cloudflare you can access on the event.platform, uh, and before it was just during like the actual deployed production application. You can access on event.platform, you can access stuff like your D1 instance to use it as a database. So you can access that in event.platform inside SvelteKit. But it was really problematic because this was only available on actual production. And so to actually tie everything together, you had to run an emulator, and you still need to do that. But then you had to basically uh, use event.platform, like basically create a function to retrieve that thing. And if event.platform was not defined, you should have used like the emulated part, but it was very cumbersome. And they did a great job with this event.platform. Like, you can emulate stuff on that in dev and preview. And basically the SvelteKit maintainers worked together with some people from Cloudflare to actually provide a very best in class experience. There was also um, a bunch of here it is, a bunch of improvements to adapter node. And this was actually it was a great job made by Karim, which is another Svelte ambassador, that like he used the adapter node a lot because he is very good. Like, he basically has his own VPS, and it's basically like he self-hosts SvelteKit a lot. And so he did a very wonderful job with adapter node, adding a graceful shutdown, for example, which is something that is not easy. Like, basically, if you are shutting down your server, node is not guaranteed to emit a certain event. And actually Karim found a way to actually gracefully shut down. So even if the event is not emitted by node in time, it was still able to. I don't know. It's way above my league. This thing. So he did a very good job. So we are getting a bunch of improvements in adapters, which is another part of SvelteKit that maybe uh, like it's a bit overlooked, but the fact that you can literally deploy your SvelteKit application everywhere, like as a node server, on Vercel, on Netlify, on Cloudflare, just by changing the adapter, I think it's another magical part of SvelteKit. And in the meantime, there is a couple of comments. First, Semver is art. Yeah, it's definitely art. There is the classic um, uh, XKCD joke, um, like bug hit. Uh, yeah, like changes in version 10.17. The CPU no longer overheats when you hold down spacebar. And then there is a bunch of comments. This update broke my workflow. My control key is hard to reach, so I hold spacebar instead. And I configured Emacs to interpret a rapid temperature rise as control. So that's horrifying. Look, my setup works for me. Just add an option to re-enable spacebar heating. This is very cool. Like it's very true. Like at the end of the day, we want to think that we are actually following somewhere, but it's very hard because even a bug fix, you can never know if someone was relying on that bug fix to actually use a specific way of doing something in their application. So even a bug fix could, in theory, be a breaking change for someone, and it's very difficult to identify. Uh, I it, I used to do like the same with my libraries. Like I published some version that I thought it was just a bug fix, and then I realized in horror that in reality it was probably a breaking change for someone. Luckily, most like not everyone uses my library, so it's probably fine. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. There is also another question, which is: does the preload data include a callout view when hovering over? What do you mean by this? Like if it told you that they are loading the data? In theory, no. Like you're just hovering over, and in the background, SvelteKit is downloading the data. And this means that also when you click the link, the data is already there, and the navigation is instant. So there, it's transparent for the user. Yep, and obviously, like it's not a bug; it's a feature to the extreme. So we actually finished our changelog, so we can move to the next part, which is the usual announcement, because I will probably go on to announce this forever and ever until April 2027, because uh, on April 27, 2024, we will have our eighth virtual Svelte conference, the Svelte Summit. So feel free to, it will be virtual. So it will be hosted here on this very YouTube channel where you're looking this week in Svelte. Um, and it will be a day of, so these are the sponsors, and it will be a day of uh, Svelte, which is good. So this will be our MCs, Masters of Ceremony, which is Kevin and Brittany, two Svelte ambassadors. Actually, like Kevin is Svelte ambassador plus plus because he's the co-founder of Svelte Society, and it's basically the factotum. Like it's doing all of it, like all the hard job. It's Kevin that is doing in the background, and obviously Brittany is another Svelte ambassador, which is very present. Is she come to this week in Svelte sometimes? She hosted, I guess, every Svelte summit, and you can submit a talk. You can just log into GitHub and you can submit a talk. So if you have any interesting idea that talks about SvelteKit, if you have ported some application from React to Svelte, if you know how to do something in SvelteKit, feel free to submit a talk. And maybe you will get selected and you will get to be part of the Svelte Summit. Now, let's move to the third part of this, which is a small community showcase. And let's take a look at these live coding. Let's take a look at these docs about Svelte reactivity. So it's actually like I think I have an idea about that, but it's actually the first time for me. So we will learn this together. I don't think it's here. Yeah, I don't think it's here. Let me see if they have. Yeah, okay. Yep, okay, let me see snippets, event functions. I don't think it's functions. Fine-grained reactivity. I don't know if there is some documentation about this. Oh, we definitely need to add this. And there's also this very small bug. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think there is documentation about this. I will definitely try to PR this. But we can actually try it because I think it's actually pretty simple. So you can import something from Svelte reactivity. And I think you can just import stuff. So for example, set is not complaining. So I think there is actually an export from Svelte reactivity, and I think you still need to wrap it in a set, so in a state. So if you do new set, and let's add, I don't know, what's a good set about? I mean, numbers is definitely one, but let's add, I don't know, puppies. So we have our puppies, and I want to have a form where I can add an input. Name is equal puppy. And I don't know if you know about this, but if you have one single, Yugos is saying, I don't think you need to wrap it in state. Actually, it makes sense probably because at the end of the day, like, is not. Let's see. We can see. What I was saying is that, like, I don't know if you know this, but if you have just one single input inside a form, it will be submitted when you press enter on that input. And that's only true if you have one single input. I will show you. So we have on submit. And for the moment, let's just log, right? Just console log. Submitted. And we probably want to prevent default. Okay. So what I wanted to show is that, like, if I try to do something, it actually submitted. But this is only true if you have one single input in the form. If you have multiple, input name puppy2, then it doesn't work anymore, unless you add a button to submit. So if you have a button to submit, when you click enter, it will actually submit the talk. But enough, like enough blabbering about the forms. Let's try to do something. So I want to prevent the default, and then I want to do const form data. And sorry, but I like snake case, so deal with it if you don't like it. But you should try because it's very good. To create a form data, we can do new form data. And you can pass e.target, which is the form. And once we have form data, we can have puppy, which is form data. dot get, and the name is puppy. So once we have this, if we have a puppy, what we can do is we can do puppies dot add puppy dot to string, just to be safe. And now we can display this. So if you can do each puppies as puppy, you can do each here, and we can do ally puppy. And let's wrap everything in a UL, because we are considerate people that cares about accessibility. So in theory now, and let me also, I want to e.target.reset, so that the form will be resetted once we submit the form. So if we try to add, I don't know, Rex, yeah, it's working. And let's try to add, I don't know, Pimpa. It's another cool one. So it's working. It's reactive. We can actually check if it's fine-grained reactive. Oh, maybe. Yeah, I don't think we can actually set that is fine-grained reactive with effect, because we cannot access the first one. Actually, maybe yes. Let me see. Effect, and let's console.log puppies, because I think you can do puppies at 0. Like, yeah, you can do it. So in theory now, when we add a new one, oh, this is not reactive. Another, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is something that is missing, and I just found something that is missing. I don't know. And yeah, okay. Let's answer things one at a time. First thing first. Jean asked, you know when speakers will be announced? And no, I don't know. We can ask Kevin. I think it should be soon. I don't think you need to wrap it in state, and it's true. But also, very importantly, snake case, and snake case is greater than camel case, and I agree. And the thing that we should try to add is, can you add to Rex? And in theory, you should not be able to do it, because if we do Rex and we try to do Rex again, it's a set. So the set will not be will not change unless you have different stuff. So if I do Rex with 2x and then I go back to Rex, it's still not exactly. Adding duplicates to a set does nothing. And let's all like say hi to Stalky, another Svelte ambassador. And one thing that I wanted to say is that inspect is actually a bit different. So this is something that I think it's important, because inspect, it's a bit different from effect, because effect will, like, by design, will trigger. I will show you an example of this. Let's say that we have a state, so const object, it's equal to state, and we have an object with first, which is a property with 1, and second, which is a property with 1, right? We have those two properties, and let's say that we have a couple of buttons. One shows obj.first, and on click I update obj.first, so obj.first plus plus, right? I can do the same with obj.second, and obviously, like, this works perfectly fine. Now, the problem is that let's say that I do $effect and I console log obj.first. I'm console logging one, and I can know that this is fine-grained reactivity because if I change this, I get a new log. But if I change this other one, I don't get a new log on the effect. Inspect, it's different by design. So if you do inspect of, oh, come on, of obj.first, you will get an init of 1 and you will get an update of 2 when the first one change, but you should be getting a log even when this other one changed. No, I'm wrong. Sorry everyone. um, I think there was a case when like it logged more than effect by design. So I personally, when I want to check if I'm doing fine grained reactivity correctly, I still went for effect. But yep, apparently you can also use uh, uh, inspect fine. And again, I don't know if like it's by design, but in theory, uh, like I don't know if this console log puppies at 0 should log something. Uh, I wonder if it's because I don't have at 0 yet. So if I do this something, oh, maybe I just cannot access this, and I was wrong. Because I think in JavaScript you can access a set uh, element like this. Let me see. I have a JavaScript set equal new set like this. I just set add something. I can do set at 0 and get back undefined. So yeah, I was wrong. Apparently today is the day that I'm wrong in general. So yep, you cannot do this. We can obviously console log puppies, and this should change whenever we add a new element. Puppy. Yeah. Oh, actually no. Why I'm so wrong today? Um, Maybe if I do puppy dot sides, this I think should change. Change. Yeah. In this case, it's actually changing. Maybe I guess like if I want to actually get something, I should do entries, and let's do these so that we can actually get an array. Uh, something else. Yeah, we can actually get like just accessing puppies is not enough probably. And I think there's some discussion happening about so okay, let's first answer some question. So what's the difference between using the JavaScript native set plus state versus the Svelte reactivity version? And it was basically what I was talking about, like the native set, when you do add, Svelte does not know that you are adding something to the to the set, and so it will not react to it. So let's say that if I do as Svelte set, now we are using the new set, and we can do $state. So this is the JavaScript set, and as you can see, if I remove the effect too, if I add something, it doesn't react because Svelte doesn't know that you added something. If we try to log it here, it should still have the new value. So if you do console log puppies, and let's actually spread it so that we can actually take a look at the values. If you do add, you can see that it has a new entry. It has another entry. If I add again, it still has only to entry, but Svelte doesn't know about these because it's not reactive. And so if you want, you can use the Svelte set, which is actually reactive. So that's why you need to import it. And now add another, and it works. So that's why you need to use Svelte reactivity. Let's see other stuff. I feel like runes is trying to replace stores, but there's still stuff that there's no rune equivalence yet. For example, the page store imported from outdoor sign-up stores. Well, this is a different things. Like first thing first, Svelte is not replacing stores. Stores are there to stay, but yeah, obviously there will be less and less usage for them because a rune can do probably the same job a bit better because it's also fine grained reactivity, but yeah, like store as are there to stay, and the page store from SvelteKit is actually from SvelteKit. So most likely in the future in Svelte 3 more, most probably you will actually get a page state because it's not a rune, a page state that you can access, and it will be even better than the page store because it will be fine-grained reactivity. Just realized set does not have a get function. Maybe has is reactive. Has should be reactive. Yes, absolutely. So those methods are reactive. So if we do $effect, we can actually get try to it does not have a get because we can do console log puppies dot has rex, for example. So in this case it's false. If we add something, it's still false. If we add rex, now it's true. Very interesting. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, okay, it was the opposite. So if you do it's for nesting stuff, that's where it differs. So if you do const obj and it's equal to $sign state, and it's a nested object with value of 3, for example, and if you do console log obj dot nested dot object dot value, you will get a 3. Actually, like if you do, for example, I don't know. I don't know how to make it look JSON.string. I don't think it would work because that will access every object. Yeah, I don't know how to make it look, but what Stark is doing, like if you do inspect object, it will log every time the object change, while with effect and console log object, it will just log when actual object changes, not when the properties changes, which is interesting. Let's go on. Let's see if there are some other set have no indexer. No effect is no dip. You can, example, do this. Yeah, you can completely replace Svelte store with state. Yeah, I think there are some very small things that you cannot replace. We have a way, for example, to mimic the start stop notifier from the stores, but it's not technically the same. Like you can check. I also just noticed something which is interesting, because if you're using just the set, you are not using any rune, and so we are not in rune mode. So we should probably just, for sake of convenience, just do options runes, just to be like, this will still work because like uh, inside Svelte reactivity, this set is using runes, and so it's still using runes, but this file was probably not. So this is still work, and when we were testing with effect, we were actually using a rune, so it's fine. So Rex, yeah. So what I was saying is that, and you guys saying, "Am I allowed to share links?" I think maybe there are some auto banning from YouTube. So sorry for that. Yeah, exactly. YouTube blocks them. Yeah, okay. That repo showcases Svelte store implementation using runes. Yeah, basically, yeah, you can very much implement. You can very much implement a Svelte store with runes. I think again there are some small quirk because, for example, you can check if you are inside an effect, and in that case, uh, bump the number of subscribers to that store. But that only work inside basically a component, and while with the store you can actually just use the store in pure JavaScript. So that's, I think, the very slight difference. uh, if I don't think it will count that much for Svelte. So I actually think that in the long run runes will probably replace stores, but for the moment stores are there to say, like, they are not deprecated. So if they really want to get rid of stores, it will probably be in Svelte 7 in, I don't know how many years. So don't worry about stores. Um, oh, sorry. Uh, okay, let's try to showcase some other thing, because I think another thing that they export is the map. And map is kind of the sister of set, because with map you can actually get a key value pair. So let's do I don't know, song, like users. Okay, so if you have a map, basically what you can do is for every user you can create an ID, and you can reference that ID inside the key of the map and inside the object, and this allows you to have a direct access to the object. So let's try to do something. We can keep the form for puppies, and let's actually do field set. This is not properly the right way of using a field set, but I don't care. Like, in theory, is still a field set. I don't know if you ever used a field set inside your code, but it's basically allowing me to have these. And the fun part is that if I do these and I do legend, I can name the field set. So this is puppies, and this apply. It shows up like this, which is fun. Puppies, puppies set. So yeah, what saying Starkey is saying is very great, very great. Like, field set have a disabled attribute, and what it means is that if a field set is disabled, every input inside the field set is disabled. So if I do disabled, like, both the input and the button is disabled, and if I add a new input, like input type checkbox, it will be disabled too. So you can disable a whole section of your form just with a field set. Very good. Let's move to another form, which is our users. Users. And this is a map. So we can basically do the same thing, but we have a name, we have submit, we get the name of the user. And now what we want is, if we have a user instead of a puppy, so if we have a user, we want to add, we actually want to do users dot set. and we want to create a new ID. Const ID is equal to crypto.random UUID. This is another thing that I think a lot of people doesn't realize, but we actually have a way to create a UUID inside the browser. You need to be in a secure context, but I mean, nowadays it's HTTPS. So everywhere. So user.set ID, and I want to do ID and probably name user. Let's me remove this log. Okay, so now we also have this thing, and the difference between the set is that now I actually have a way to get a specific user. Let's see how we can use it. Okay, first thing first, you can still iterate over a map. So each users as user, and actually when you iterate over a map, you will actually get an array, because a map is a sort of array of arrays. So you actually get an array back, and it has the ID and the user. Now we don't need the ID here, but we still need to the structuring like this. And what I can do here is I can do user dot name, we were saying. So if I then add a new user, for example, Paolo, it's added here. And this time I can actually add multiple of the same, because these are actually two different users, like they have different IDs. And what I can do now to spice things up is, let's say that I add a button, for example, button, and I can do Control X, I can do Control V, and now I have a button with the user. And what I want to do on click, I want to set the ID as the editing user. So in my script tag, I want to have a state. So const editing, it's equal to $state, which is null by default. And what I want to do inside my onClick, I want to do editing, it's equal to user.id. And this is probably complaining because it's let editing. So now we are doing something very, very, very simple. Like we are just basically assigning to this editing. So if I add a new user, the moment I click on that user, I'm adding the ID of the user as the editing, basically. So if I add a new user and I click on that, this will change. Now, what we can do with this, very easy. Let's see. We can use a dialog, which is the native dialog element. And I want to have a form inside a dialog that can change the user. Basically, I have an input which has a name of name, it's fine, and a value of now. What I want to do is I want to have the name of the user here, and the name of the user will be the name of the user that I'm editing. So I can do users.get, and if I do users.get editing dot name like this, what I will do is that it will try to get the user from the list of users based on the one that I'm editing. If it finds one, it will add that as a name. So we have this form. We can also add a button to submit. Button, edit, and I want to do on submit. I will just actually edit the user. So let me see. Let's see if this works. I don't know if it will work, but let's see. What I want to do is on submit, I want to get the event e.prevent default. And now what I want to do is I want to do const user. It might work. So let's say users dot get editing. So I'm getting the user, and I'm getting. I want to do the same thing that I'm doing here. So I want to do this. Okay, and sorry for the messy thing. I actually want the name here. And now, in theory, I should be able to do user.name is equal to name. I don't know if this will work. I don't know if this will work. We can see. And after I did all that, obviously I just want to do this if there's actually a name. Otherwise, TypeScript will complain. We don't have TypeScript here, but I'm used to it, so I will do it anyway. Let me move this here. So I think that's it. On submit, I want to do this, and then I think I can just do editing. It's equal to null. Now, in theory, I'm not opening this model yet. I could use the open attribute, but that's not how it works. But this is another small trick that I want to show you. You can actually do it with an action. I actually did it sometimes. So you can do function dialog, maybe. This is an action. And this action take the dialog element in. And also you can pass the open state. And basically what it will do is will do if dialog, I mean, it will never actually be like that, but let's do it for real. So you can do if open dialog.show model, because this is one of the weird thing about the dialog element. Like you have an HTML element, but then to actually open the dialog, you need to call show model. Otherwise it will, like if you just set the open attribute, it will not be a model. It will just be like put in the DOM with with a display block, basically, but it will not be an actual model. So with this use dialog action, you can check if open is true, and if open is true, you can say dialog show model. Otherwise, you can do return, and you can pass an update function that will be updated when there is a new open. So new open, and then you can say, you can check the same thing, like if open, actually if new open dialog show model, else dialog close. So by doing this, basically you can kinda use dialog, actually let's call it open, because what we can do is we can do use open and then pass a boolean in. So if you want to pass the boolean, actually the thing that we want to pass is not editing. So if we are not, like if you are editing, so if not editing is true, it should open the dialog. Let's see. I can add Paolo here. I submit, and when I click here, I should see my dialogue, and then let's see if this works. Paolo Ricciuti, which is my name, and when I click edit, it doesn't work. So this is also probably something that is worth checking if it's an intended behavior, but we can change that because now that we just need to set something on the map again. So we can do user.set user.id. Actually, yeah, we are getting the idea. Yeah, so we can do user.set editing, and we can set again user. This might work even if it's the same instance. Let's see. We can add Paolo. We can check Paolo. We have this dialog. We can do Paolo Ricciuti. And if I edit, we get an error. User.set is not a function. Users.set. Let's try again for hopefully the last time. Let me also remove this. Paolo adding. We'll click on Paolo. Can click Paolo Ricciuti with edit. Oh, it doesn't work. We need probably a new user. So we can do this. There we can spread. Let's see. Paolo, edit. Let's click Paolo Ricciuti, edit, and now it works. Okay. I think this was interesting, an interesting exploration about the set and map. I actually think I want to ask maintainers if they actually those are the intended behavior, because maybe that there could be work done to make the set and the dialogue more dynamic. So I think it was a very interesting exploration, and I hope you liked it too. Let's see if there is a new. Yeah, it will just be node modal. Basically, what I want to show, like if instead of use open, I just use open like this, it will not be a model. And this means that if I add Paolo here and I click, it will actually be shown on the DOM, but it's not a model. Like it's not. I can still click like this. Is very important. I can still click on the rest of the DOM, while a model will actually inert the rest of the DOM. So if we go back to use open and then I do Paolo and I click on Paolo, now this is a proper model, so I cannot click anywhere. The focus is kept inside the dialogue. Obviously, like it can escape because there is the rest of the iframe, but yeah. Let's say the new user object needs to be wrapped in state for the name to be reactive. Yeah, probably. That's probably why. Oh yeah, definitely. That's the problem. Yeah, obviously. I think maybe like it could be auto wrapped, like so. Yeah, also because I think we can use. Let's say if we can do it. So if we do const user, it's equal to $state these. Now this should be reactive. Yeah, I think that's it. What I was saying is that maybe user state, maybe they could be automatically wrapped. I don't know if that's the best decision. So if we do this now, in theory, given that we have a state here, this should actually be reactive. So if I do Paolo, state is only available inside .svelte and .svelte. Possibly, like I think, is just on the top level of a component. So we should probably bring these. Maybe that's a bug because I think I can do. Yeah, I think I can move it here and have it work. Const submit. Go to this. Where it is. Let's see if this work. Paulo. Yeah, there it worked. So this is, I think, is a bug. So we are discovering some bug. It's good. And now if we click, if I do Paolo Ricciuti and I edit, now it works. So yeah, thank you, Stalky. I have to keep track of those little things to talk about. The set should not be necessary. It's already that object. Yeah, exactly. Like the set is only necessary if you don't want to use the state value, because, and if you don't want to use the state, you actually need to have a new object. You can actually use transitions with the dialogue. I actually implemented it this very week because what you can do, it's a bit tricky. There is a part of that on MDN. So if you go to MDN dialogue, you can see that there is specifically a part about animation, I think, creating a model, the return value, animating dialogues. Here it is. And I will actually put these in the chat, copy link address. And basically what you can do to animate a dialogue is actually doing in the animation, you should include the display from block to none, because if you animate display, so you basically are targeting the dialogue open, and then you actually need, like, okay, this is with add property, but this is another thing. Like the thing that you can use is with these dialogue keyframe animations. Basically what you do is you use a different animation for dialog.open and dialog, and inside this animation you can animate the display property. So if you animate the display property from none to block, what it does is that it animate like it works before with, when you click on the dialogue, it's animating in, and you basically can, like, the way it works is that you animate from display block to display none, and this just means that display, like the fade out will still be display block while it's animating. Why? So when you sorry, when you do dialog.close, it will remove the open attribute. So by removing the open attribute, it will trigger this fade out animation, because we are saying that the dialog will have the fade out animation. And so this animation will run for 0.7 second, and you are saying that you want to animate the display property, but the display property is not animatable. So this means that for 0.7 second, it will still be display block, so it will still be visible, and then at 100% will automatically flip to display none, which is the new state, which is also the state for the dialogue without the open tag. But in the meantime, it will also animate those things, which is very interesting. And the same is true for the opposite. So you tell that display is still none, but then the open attribute is there. So it's actually display block. And so you are animating the thing, and then it flips to block. Very interesting. Yeah, it should be intended is not deeply reactive. Yeah, okay. Well, like, I think once you do the step of having a set be reactive, it could be deeply reactive, because overall, like, if you have a state of an array, for example, it is deeply reactive. So and yeah, that looks definitely like a bug to me. I will probably open an issue about this. Yeah, only thing very tricky about dialog transition is the backdrop because of display none. Yeah, that's a problem. Like the backdrop will automatically vanish the moment you close the dialog. I actually cheated a bit. I don't know if, like, accessibility wise, it should be fine. I show you. So if I have this dialog element, and let's do it actually in Svelte because it's easier. I mean, no, it's not easier. I mean, we already have a dialogue. So what I did is I actually wrapped everything inside a container like this, and now this is my dialogue. So class dialogue, and this what I do is I style the dialogue to be position fixed inset 0 so that it will cover the whole thing, and my background color will be RGB 000 slash 0.3, for example. So my whole dialogue act as a backdrop so that I can animate it, and then I can style my dot dialogue however I want. So for example, I can do position, yeah, I can actually do like, I can show it. Let's do it with grid. So dialogue open. When dialogue open, I want display to be grid, and place items center. And then my dialogue, I can style it however I want. So I can have a background color of white, border radius of 1 rem, and stuff like that. So if I try to open something, like this is my, oh, and actually I need to also change the min width, sorry, max width, unset, and max height unset to properly make, oh, not even. Oh, I think you cannot, like, you need to do with 100% height 100%. I face the same problem. Oh, come on. Oh, I'm an idiot because it was actually spanning the whole thing. It's just that, like, if I do 255 here, we should see, yeah, it's all red. So this is my whole dialogue, and I have my dot dialogue, so I can add a bit of padding here to RAM, for example, to make it more like, this is my dialogue. So this looks like a dialogue. In theory, has the same advantages of a dialogue because you cannot focus outside. You have the same inert of the DOM, but now you can animate it. So we can actually do it. So animate, animation, fade in, animation fade in 1 second, animation fade out. Sorry, this needs to be the fade out. And unfortunately, this needs to be two different animations. So you cannot only write one and use CSS variables because the name needs to change. So fade in. So if we do our keyframes, add keyframes, fade in, we will go from, so we want to go from opacity of 0 to opacity of 1, and fade out, we want to go, it's on the out is the important bit. So on the out, we want to go from opacity of 1 to opacity of 0, but we also want to animate the display. So display block to display none. So just by doing this, you can see that we can animate in the dialogue and the backdrop. And you also can do some other stuff with the dialogue. So if you want, and obviously like I can close and it will animate out. Yeah, obviously like there is this problem because now I'm using grid, but here I cannot. Maybe what I can do is I can animate from display grid to display none. Yes, probably. If I do this and I edit, oh, come on. Oh, because I only have that. Sorry, guys. So if I do this, place item center, always on the dialog, this should solve the problem. Edit. Yeah, now it works. Obviously, now we are seeing the undefined, but that's another story. And so, obviously, you can also add an animation for the dialogue itself. So, animation slide in, for example, 1 second, and you can do, for example, stuff like this. Slide in from transform translate y negative 100% to 0%. And given that those are different animation, when you submit something and you click here, it slides in. And you can even do the opposite. So you can even do a slide out, and you need to use basically the same trick. So what you can do is you can have this and have a different animation when dialogue open dialogue. So when dialogue open, dialogue you slide in. When dialogue, so when it's just dialogue, you can have slide out, which could be the opposite of this to have a nice animation. Slide out. It's from 0% to negative 100%. This should work. Yep. So it's fancy, it's interesting, and I will leave it like this because it can be useful. I will also keep the change here. So yeah, okay. I keep the thing. We also styled stuff around. I don't know if we should leave it like this. Maybe what we should do is, oh, I actually know the yeah. Okay, let's do. This is the Svelte orange FF3E00. So this will actually be super solid with this Svelte stuff, but we actually want a bit of transparency. So let's say, I don't know, 0.3. Let's try. Too few. Let's do 33. Yeah, I like it. It's done. Best design ever. Best design ever. Edit, and it's fine. Okay, we finished our very like brief introduction of dialogue animations. I hope you enjoyed today. I certainly did. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just asking, except for trick animation. Yeah. It's very nice. Only one thing, what you can try that put dialog into an if, which is removed and put it back into the DOM. Yeah, I would not do that because, yeah, you can do it, but then it immediately vanish. You can use Svelte transition these ways, but Svelte transition still kind of rely on JavaScript, while this is 100% CSS. So I think it's a nice solution. And he's talk about his optimistic it already. No, I did not, but I plan to present it in a future episode of Svelte with Transition. I'm actually slowly I think it's ready for Svelte 4. Just today I made an update for allow you to use it in Svelte 5, but I also want to use runes with that. So stay tuned for uh, in the next episode of This Week in Svelte, where I will present my library. Okay, thank you, everyone. I think it's way overdue. Sorry for keeping you 1 hour and almost 1 hour and a half to attach to your screens, but I hope you learned something. I will actually post this link into the description if I can, because actually I need to force Kevin to do it, but I will share it. If you want, you can even follow me on Twitter. I will actually share it there if you want. Paolo Ricciuti, and thank you, everyone. And I'll see you again in the next installment, which will be next week. Bye bye.